guys, my name is Sarah and welcome to our Big Vision channel. Today I have a really great video for you guys, but before we jump into my video, last week we put up an awesome video all about porn and the statistics of porn and just the detrimental effect that it can have on your mental health. Now, speaking of mental health, today I want to talk to you guys about fear and the detrimental effect that it can have on your mental health, and what it can lead to if it is left unaddressed in our lives. Now, I'm going to read to you guys just some interesting things that I read about fear whenever I was researching it online. Just some little things that I feel like are kind of side effects to fear. Alright, first off, chronic stress, the low intensity variety of fear expressed as free-floating anxiety, constant worry, and daily insecurity, can quietly but seriously harm your physical and mental health over time. Second, we get scared because of what we imagine could happen. Some neuroscientists claim that humans are the most fearful creatures on the planet because of our ability to learn, think, and create fear in our minds. But this low-grade, objectless fear can turn into chronic anxiety about nothing specific and become debilitating. Also, this morning I was at church and our pastor said something that really just blew me away. It's more dealing with anxiety and depression, but the title of this video is called The Heart of Anxiety because the root of anxiety and depression is fear. So I feel like this statistic kind of works. And he said that in 2019, anxiety and depression was the biggest medical disorder in the entire world. Just let that sink in. The last thing that I want to read to you guys, and I'll kind of explain it because it's kind of a lot. It says, we react differently to real and imagined threats. Imagined threats cause paralysis. Being scared about all the bad things that may or may not happen in the future makes you worry a lot but take little action. You are stuck in a state of fear, overwhelmed, but not knowing what to do. Real threats, on the other hand, cause frenzy. When the threat is imminent and identifiable, you jump into action immediately and without flinching. And to explain that to you guys a little more, basically whenever you're afraid of something like that you have created in your mind, you don't know how to handle that because it's not real. It's a fear that's in your mind, it's not in front of you. So you don't know how to stop that fear. You don't know how to stop what's going to happen because of that fear that you have in your mind. However, whenever there is a real threat in front of you, like say an evil clown trying to kill you, which I will tell you guys a little more about in just a minute, you kind of know how to react because that's a fear that's directly in front of you. And your mind jumps into action to prevent that fear from harming you. Now, back to my fear of clowns. Whenever I was a little kid, I'd say about 8 years old, my mom would try to tell you that I was older, but don't listen to her, she's lying. She decided that it was a good idea to let me watch It. Yes, It. And so we sit down to watch this movie, and probably about 30 minutes in, when the little kid gets snatched into the little sewer drain, I knew that I needed to stop. Like, bad idea. I was already traumatized. I needed to stop. I did not. I didn't stop. I kept watching and just kept on watching and just this. And here's the thing about It. It's like a 5-hour long movie. So you've got 5 hours of just pure torture. And there's one specific part where this kid is taking a shower. And this fool pops up through the little drain like, hey, how you doing? I'm gonna eat you. I'm gonna eat you. And that has stayed with me for my entire life since I've watched that movie. For the first year after I watched that movie, I would not take a shower. Now, I did clean myself, guys. I would take baths because in my 8-year-old mind, I thought, well, if he tried to come up through the drain while I was taking a bath, he would drown, so he couldn't get me. So, yeah. And just like I have this fear of clowns, there's a very prominent prophet in the Bible who also had a very great fear. And his name is Elijah. And his story is in 1 Kings chapter 19. If you would like to read about him, I'm going to kind of paraphrase the story just so I'm not going on forever for you guys. But yeah, so Elijah is this great prophet for the Lord. And Elijah goes around to all of these places, and the Spirit of the Lord comes upon Elijah for him to perform these great miracles for the kingdom. And one day, Elijah performed this really great miracle where fire literally came down from heaven. And the very next day, when the king's wife heard what he had done, she got so angry that she said she was going to kill him. And that terrified Elijah to the point that he just started to run. And he ran all the way to a cave and isolated himself into this cave. And that's what fear does to us. And that's what the enemy tries to do to us, is put us in a cave isolated so that our fears begin to echo inside of our heads and become very loud, much louder, because we're by ourselves. Just like whenever you go into a cave or like a very open, small space by yourself and you yell, it echoes back to you. Well, that's what happens when you isolate yourself in fear. And so Elijah is in this cave, and he's just completely shut down. Like his fear has become so great at this point that it has shut him down as a person, his mind, everything. He doesn't know what to do. Well, then there is this whisper in his ear. And what's really cool about that is you've got this echo screaming at you, but then you hear that whisper. And have you ever wondered why it says in the Bible that God whispers to you? Well, it's because God is right next to you and he doesn't need to yell. Those fears that are yelling at you, they're far away. They're not there. God is right beside you, so he only needs to whisper for you to hear him. And so he whispered to Elijah and he said, Elijah, what are you doing in here? Come on, get out of here. And see, that's what God is trying to tell you in your fear. Come on, come out of here. That's not where you're supposed to be. Come out, come to me. And just like with Elijah, I have some very real experiences with fear. You see, over the years, the enemy has tried to bury me in these just dumb little fears that for some people might not even seem that big, but they've just buried me. And I've searched for doctors, therapists, I've taken medicines, I've gone to a mental health facility, I've tried all these things, and although they may have worked for a minute, none of them continued to work. They always stopped, and that feeling of being buried always came back. But then one day, I decided that my only hope was to turn to Jesus. And since that day, yes, I still have my struggles, but I'm just a completely different person. You know, whenever we turn to Jesus, it changes the whole game. And then, you know, you start to read these Bible verses and, you know, these stories in the Bible, and you see, wow, people dealt with that back then too. And it shows you how to handle these things. And, you know, so at one point, I isolated myself into a cave just like Elijah, and I shut down. But then Jesus turned it all around. So if you're like me and you're like Elijah and you're like so many other people, I'd like to just pray for you guys so that Jesus can change your life like he's changed mine and so many others. Lord, I just want to take a minute and I want to speak to that spirit of fear that is living in these people's minds. And Lord, I just want to declare right now that that spirit has to leave, because that spirit is already defeated and does not belong here, and it has no strongholds, Lord. And Lord, I just want to rip those roots of fear right out of these people's minds. And Lord, I just pray that you blanket all of these people's minds with your peace and your love. Amen. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. The goal of Big Vision is to take Jesus everywhere. So if you like this video, please help us share the gospel by sharing this video. And also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe and hit that bell. Alright guys, I love you and we will see you next time. Bye! No, what? What am I trying to say?
Speak in tongues.
But you gotta be over here to translate.
I'll translate it. I
Okay.
feel your spirit telling us to go to KFC right now. Listen, you keep preaching like that, she's gonna turn that video camera around and I'm gonna be right on top of my head.